Hi, we're in Unit 7, Day 7 Notes, Function Operation. Quick warm up on the top. I'm going to go through this pretty quick. Problem 1, I am going to distribute in the 4 to the inside of the parentheses. When I think about distributing, it's kind of like multiplying. So I end up with 4x squared plus 4, and there's my simplified form. This next one, you just have to remember that minus sign in between needs to be distributed to those pieces behind it. So I'm going to be left with x minus 2 minus x squared minus 1. I'm going to kind of look through, see if I have any like terms. I like to do this with underlines here. So I'm going to end up with negative x squared plus x minus 3. And those are not like terms. I'm going to have to just leave them like that. Problem 3, a little bit tricky. It says this quantity, x minus 2, this whole thing in parentheses is being squared. That really means that this x minus 2 is happening twice. So I write it like this. And from here, maybe you remember the word that we called this, which is FOIL. That's like distributing all of these pieces through. When I FOIL, I end up with x squared minus 2x minus 2x plus 4. I combine these pieces in the middle and I'm left with x squared minus 4x plus 4. There's my final answer. If that was too fast, pause the video, go back, maybe try them on your own, see how you did. Here we go with our function operations. We're in this huge box right here. This first operation is addition. Here's our definition. If you take a function and add it to another function, okay, f of x plus g of x, it could even look like k of x plus p of x. They're just letters, that's okay, they really mean the same thing. Then in the next box, it gives you a bunch of different functions, a bunch of different numbers and things to go off of. So it labels f of x is equal to 2x, it gives you g of x, it gives you k of x, it gives you p of x. So we're going to utilize these in practice. So this first example, I'm just going across here, it wants us to do h of x is equal to, and then it wants us to add f of x, which is 2x, plus g of x, and I find it, which is x plus 1. All I have to do here to clean this up is to combine my like terms, and I'm going to be left with 3x plus 1. I took two random things and I added them together. Okay, my next one wants us to find h of x. This time I'm adding k of x, so that's 3x squared, with p of x, which is plus 6x cubed. As I'm looking at these are not like terms. I cannot combine those, so that's it. I can't go any further. That's adding. Taking two things, adding them together, looking to see if you have any like terms to combine. Okay, my next one is subtracting. I'm going to do the same setup. I have h of x is equal to f of x, which was 2x, minus g of x. G of x was x plus 1. I practiced this about a minute ago with that warm-up up top. I need to distribute that negative. When I do that, I get 2x minus 1. I combine these like terms, and I get 1x minus 1 for my final answer. Next one, h of x is equal to, what is k of x? 3x squared. I'm just looking back up here because I keep needing to refresh my memory. And then minus 6x cubed, because that's p of x. I cannot combine those like we said before, so I'm just going to have to leave them like that. Okay, I'm scrolling down. I'm going to have to keep popping back up here to look at those numbers, those values. Okay, multiplication. I take two things and I multiply them together. So I have h of x is equal to f of x was 2x, and I'm multiplying this by x plus 1 because that's what I had for g of x. Okay, if they're like this, I can think about distributing in, and I'm going to be left with 2x squared plus 2x. I cannot combine those, but I did multiply them. Next one, h of x is equal to k of x, which was 3x squared, and then I'm multiplying this by p of x, which was 6x cubed. Be careful when you multiply. 3 times 6 is 18, but with the x's, I add the exponents. So 2 plus 3 for those little exponents, I get 18x to the 5th. Okay, my next function operation is division. Okay, so I take one divided by the other. So I have h of x is equal to f of x, which is 2x, and I divide it by g of x, which is x plus 1. In this case, I cannot break up the x plus 1 in the bottom. It's like a package deal. So in this case, I can't go any further. That's it, one over the other. My next one, h of x is equal to k of x goes on the top, that's 3x squared, and then p of x goes on the bottom, that's 6x cubed. I do have a little cleaning up I can do here. I notice that the 3 and the 6 can probably combine, and my green piece is right there, the x squared and the x cubed. If it makes sense to you, you can write this out as 3x times x over 6 x. Okay, the 3 and the 6 can reduce to 1 over 2, and then I notice some of my x's cancel, leaving me with a 1 on the top and 2x just on the bottom. Okay, you can use your properties of exponents as well. That would really help here. Okay, those are the properties, what we just filled out in the box. Now we're going to take a few minutes and go with some other examples here. On the back side it says example 1. Gives you two functions, okay, let f of x equal 3x to the 5th and g of x equal 2x cubed. It wants us to find all four power functions. So when it says find all four power functions, it's bolded right there. All it's talking about is do adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Okay, those are the four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the four we just practiced. And then, of course, simplify all your answers. Here we go. My first one, I'm going to add. If you saw this written out, it would say f of x plus g of x. When I do this, f of x is going to be 3x to the 5th plus 2x to the 3rd. For adding, they have to be like terms. In this case, they're not, so then I'm done. My next one is subtracting. That would look like f of x minus g of x. So I take f of x, 3x to the 5th, and I subtract it from 2x to the 3rd. Again, adding and subtracting, these need to be like terms. They're not, so then I'm stuck. I can't go any further. Next, I have multiplying. I'm just going to shorten it out. Multi. Okay, that would look like f of x times g of x. Okay, those are being multiplied by each other. So when I do this, I'm going to have a 3x to the 5th times 2x to the 3rd. When I multiply again, 3 times 2 is 6, but I add the exponent. So 5 plus that little 3 gives me an 8. So I have 6x to the 8th when I multiply those. And my last one is division. So I'm going to divide these. This looks like f of x over g of x. When I set this up, I'll do a little arrow there, it's going to look like 3x to the 5th divided by 2x to the 3rd. Again, I'm going to try to see if my numbers can reduce and possibly my x's. Okay, if that's confusing to you, see if you could write it out. It's like 3x, x, 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 x on the top, 5 x's, and then 2x, x, x. The 3 and the 2 can't do anything with it, so that's just going to have to stay. What about the x's? I'm going to go through and cancel out what I can. On the top, it looks like I'm left with 2 x's, which is an x squared. So there's all my 4 different power functions, all my different ways to combine these. I added, I subtracted, I multiplied, and I divided. All right, problem 2. Same type of thing here, just different values. Let f of x equal negative 2x squared and g of x equal x minus 1. Find all 4 power functions. I'm going to start with adding, just like we did before. I'm going to go through and add these. I'm going to do f of x plus g of x. That's what it would look like. Okay? Writing this out. Negative 2x squared plus x minus 1. I'm going to see if I have any like terms. If those parentheses confuse you, you don't need to put them. You can, but you don't need to. I'm looking at this to see if I can combine anything, and I notice that I cannot, so I'm just going to have to leave it like that. Next, I have subtraction. That is going to look like f of x minus g of x. Okay, this is going to be negative 2x squared minus x minus 1. With that negative sign in between, I'm going to have to remember to distribute. So I have negative 2x squared minus x plus 1. And then see if you can combine anything. In this case, I cannot. Then I have multiplication. That would look like f of x times g of x. So it would be negative 2x squared times x minus 1. We practiced this with the warm-up where I'm going to distribute in. I have negative 2x to the third, and careful, plus 2x squared. I cannot combine those, so then I'm finished with that. Lastly, here I have dividing, so I'm going to divide these two things. I have f of x over g of x. Let's see what we get. F of x is on the top, so that's negative 2x squared all over x minus 1. Remember, this x minus 1 on the bottom, best buds, can't break those up, so I can't cancel anything here. So that's my final answer for dividing. Okay, there's all 4 of my power functions: adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. If I went too fast, if you got lost, pause the video, rewind the video, go back and rewatch the video.